Hi, I'm Greg Hyland, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's November 26, 2020. I'm John Swinimer. If you have a comment, criticism, or question, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Greg Hyland about WhitCAF 2020. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And don't forget to check out the new YouTube channel. Hosted by the Whitby Library in Whitby, Ontario, the annual Comic Arts Festival celebrates comic book creators and makers in a variety of fun and entertaining activities, including exhibits, panels, readings, artist alley, contests, and more. Greg is a writer, illustrator, designer, and storyboard artist for the LEGO Group, who's worked on TV storyboards, illustrations, and comics for such LEGO lines as LEGO Movie, LEGO Marvel Superheroes, LEGO DC Universe, LEGO Star Wars, LEGO Batman, LEGO SpongeBob SquarePants, LEGO Lord of the Rings, LEGO Hobbit, and LEGO Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He also writes and draws his own webcomic, Lethargic Lad, which appears at lethargiclad.com, and illustrated several card games for Steve Jackson Games, including Munchkin Fu, Ninja Burger, Che Guevara, Burn in Hell, and Munchkin Zombies Artist Edition. His ongoing cartoon is called Frog Crisis, and he's also working on a new volume of his Monster Atlas book series. So without further ado, here's my chat with Greg Hyland about WhitCAF 2020. So Greg Hyland, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Good to be here.
I appreciate your time. What I normally do to start off the conversation is ask a creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
Well, I was always reading stuff more like Peanuts and Dennis the Menace and things like that. First comic books, I remember picking up like Marvel Star Wars comics back when they came out. But I didn't seriously start collecting until I was in about grade 6, and I remember buying a copy of Avengers because it had the most heroes.
It was worth that. You got your money's worth out of that one, I guess.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Cool, good stuff. So I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
Boy, I don't know. It's tough to say. I mean, I see some of my other friends who do comics, and I think, wow, I want to do stuff like them. And I keep trying to do my own stuff. I mean, I've been doing my own stuff for about 30 years now. So it's like I can't be stopped.
Okay. Yeah, I guess there's not a lot of inspiration in the daily newspaper, so we...
Yeah, I mean, I don't see daily comics, I hate to say, even though I'm trying to create one right now. But I don't keep on top of things.
Right. For sure. Well, I want to ask you, what is the latest project that you're working on these days?
Well, I've got a couple things. I've been doing a comic, like I just said, about trying to do a newspaper-type daily comic. I've got a comic called Frog Crisis, which I do every day. I host them on... I've got a website now, frogcrisis.com, so I put them up there. I put them on Facebook and Twitter. And I also have a Patreon page set up for it as well. So that's where I put the newest comics, whereas the comics I put like on Frog Crisis, I wait a week. So people who are on Patreon get to see them a week sooner.
Sure. So I presume by the title, there's always a frog in crisis, but is there more to the story than that?
There's kind of no story.
Okay.
It's just, it's a frog, and he talks about stuff, whatever's going on. Sometimes he reacts to what he sees on Twitter. I did a bunch of strips about the Frog playing hockey based on a lot of when I was playing hockey just last year. I've hurt myself, so no more hockey for me.
Oh.
Um, and he just, reacts to stuff. I was working on one that would be going up tomorrow where he's playing the game Among Us. So it's kind of like reacting to whatever's going on, things like that.
Sure.
It's a regular kind of like 3-panel gag comic. Oh, sometimes it's about potato chips.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay. When I talk to other creators, 3-panel it tends to have needs a little bit more work than, let's say, a full-blown comic book, because you have to be very concise and precise to get everything in there and still have a story and a punchline and engage the reader. So do you find that more of a challenge, or does it take more time for you to do something like that?
It's a challenge. I was actually recently doing another comic strip with a friend of mine, and I warned him, he's writing and I'm drawing, and I warned him it's not easy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's all right. And I hate to say, after about 11 strips, he kind of like imploded. And we're still doing it, but we haven't done it in a while.
Right.
But part of the idea behind Frog Crisis also, I started it a year ago. It uses a character that I would draw here and there, but I decided I wanted something to challenge myself of doing a comic every day. So my other comic that I do called Lethargic Lad, which can be seen at lethargiclad.com, I realized those strips took me 3 days to do.
Oh.
So I wanted to do something quicker. So Frog Crisis, I limit myself to about 15 minutes. Got to be done and then on the internet in 15 minutes.
That's amazing.
So the art isn't great, although people like it. And the lettering isn't great, but I try.
50. That's a record to get something done in 15 minutes in this day and age. I mean, you really have to. It must be in your head the whole day. You must be thinking about it, and then.
I admit I think about strips all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the 15 minutes, which sometimes is maybe 20 minutes,
mm-hmm.
really is the like sitting down and drawing it. I say that I also have the rule: no erasers, no rulers used.
Wow. So it's just one take.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So given that, I want to ask you what advice you might have for someone who's trying to get into cartooning or making comic books. Any one piece of advice?
I don't know. I mean, have a good idea of what you're doing. Also, really draw the comic that you want. Don't try and be commercial. Don't try and do what you think is going to be popular. So I see a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, this is just like people at shows show me what they're working on, and you can really see like, well, this is just really a ripoff of this other thing. And it's like, well, do what you want to do, but if you want to do superheroes, that's fine. That's what you should do, but really do it for yourself, not because you think, oh, someone who's like Deadpool will be popular.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good advice for sure. I want to take a step back and ask you perhaps a little more philosophical question. And what do you think the role that libraries and library events play in fostering comic books and their creation?
Well, I know that more and more libraries are getting into comics. And actually, my sister-in-law is a librarian, and she pushed hard to get comics in libraries.
That's great.
And I'm seeing it more and more. How popular all these little like WhitCAF events like that all over are like super popular, And I've really missed them this year.
Yeah.
Because you see people that you wouldn't normally see.
Right, exactly. So you talked a bit about Frog Crisis, Lethargic Lad. Do you have any other projects that are coming up down the road that you can talk about?
Yeah, I did I've also been working on a series of books, so not really comics, called Monster Atlas. And what it is it's like a guide to monsters, and then it has maps of where the monsters are. So we cover everything from, like, Sasquatch and lake monsters, but we also talk about legendary stuff like Wendigo. And then we talk about things that are in movies because, they have a place. So we say, oh, here's the town where Stranger Things happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or here's the towns in Maine where a lot of Stephen King, where it took place.
Right,
and
right.
We place it on the map. So we cover everything, from real monsters to legendary to fictitious things, and make a big map of it. So we've done 3 books so far. I'm working right now on the 4th book. The first book had North and South America in it. The second one had Britain and Scandinavia. And the third one was Western Europe, so things like Germany, France, Spain. And the one I'm working on right now is Eastern Europe, so that's things like Poland, Romania, Russia, things like that. So I do a picture of each monster, and then we have a map that shows where they are.
That's fascinating because there's so many tales and folklore that abound in that, with tons of history that I'm sure you can pull from.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, we find out stuff that, you didn't know. And I think that's some of the fun stuff about it. When we did the South America book, I was amazed at the things that we were finding. Because it's like, I've never heard of this. This is great.
Yeah, lots of stuff. That's for sure. So where can people find you online to find out more about your current and upcoming projects?
Well, I'd say mostly, the websites, I've got monsteratlas.com and frogcrisis.com. But otherwise, I'm on Twitter with at lethargic_lad. So I put lots of stuff up there, including, the Frog Crisis comics. I'll post up a monster picture as I'm working on it. And just say stuff.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
And I would say, if I were any place for an event, which sadly I'm not, I talk about that there.
Right. Very good.
Lethargic Lad and Frog Crisis also have Facebook pages as well. So like at Frog Crisis, at Real Lethargic Lad.
Thanks to Greg for the chat. You can discover more about Greg on Twitter at lethargic_lad. You can discover Monster Atlas at monsteratlas.com. You can discover Frog Crisis at frogcrisis.com. And you can discover Lethargic Lad at lethargiclad.com. And you can discover more about WhitCAF 2020 at whitbylibrary.ca/WhitCAF. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2020.